I'd like to call the meeting in order. Cindy, if we could have roll, please.
Opperly,
Here.
Barton,
Here.
Betteridge,
Here.
Jones,
Here.
Shook, Spar, and Warren.
Here.
Thank you.
Has everybody had a chance to look at the November meetings minutes? There's no amendments. Do I hear a motion for approval?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the minutes of November 23rd be approved as presented and as provided.
I'll second it.
Barton,
Yes.
Betteridge,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
and Opperly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, before we start tonight, council would like to read a short statement.
Thank you. Public hearing is being held tonight pursuant to published notice. Any person wishing to address the ZBA will be sworn in by our court reporter and will give their testimony under oath or affirmation. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the ZBA will make its determination. 4 yes votes are required to obtain its approval. The purpose of the public hearing is for the Zoning Board of Appeals to hear testimony regarding whether a proposed variance meets the required legal standards for a variance to be issued. It's not intended to consider or to afford individuals an opportunity to comment generally on whether a project is or is not a good idea. Relevant factors for the zoning board to consider include whether the denial of a variance would cause a particular hardship to the owner because of the conditions of the specific property involved, any unique attributes of the property which are not generally applicable to other properties in the zoning district, whether the proposed variance is requested purely for economic gain, whether any particular difficulties have been caused by the applicant, whether granting the variance will be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property in the area, and whether the proposed variance will impair adequate light or air to adjacent properties, cause traffic problems, impair property values, or endanger public safety. The testimony offered should be limited to those relevant factors I've explained. Rules of order govern the conduct of tonight's public hearing. As the chair, no one should speak unless recognized by the chair, and any speakers should follow the directions of our chair. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay, our first case tonight is number 15-12. Dan Neep is requesting a variance for a sign addition at 342 Detroit Avenue, Zone B3, special use. Petitioner seeks a variance to expand a non-conforming sign. Dan, you want to step up and Arlene will swear you in, and you can step to the podium? Yeah. Then just state your name and address, too, for Arlene. Dan.
Where the variance is going to be or where I live?
Where you live's fine.
Dan Neep, 800 North Oklahoma, Morton.
Yeah, that's good. Just give us a brief statement.
On my sign stands or poles, I want to put another sign in the middle that will help me get out the word of, like, sale of the week or whatever I would have that week or month. And I guess I had a variance about 20 years ago, and
Yeah.
I was informed it expired after a year or something like that. So I did put some signs up. This is additional, so I did do some things on that variance at the time, but we're adding to what was already there. So the poles are already there. There's already 2 signs that'll go right in the middle of the current ones.
And I think Roger stated that you still have less square footage with the new sign than we gave you for the variance, so.
Correct. And at that time, when I got that variance, they counted both sides. And now it's just a cumulative one side, I believe.
Yeah.
Dan, that's the only thing you're putting up is just the sign in the middle in the vacant area right now, isn't it?
Correct.
The digital sign?
Correct.
Does anybody in the audience wish to speak to this case? Any board members have any more questions for him? With that, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I wish to approve the case 1512 as stated. The motion Motion to approve.
Second.
Jones,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Opperly,
Yes.
Barton,
Yes.
Federici.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, have your variance, thanks, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Dan.
Okay, our next case is number 15-11. Brittany Garcia is requesting a variance for an accessory structure at 247 East Fernwood Street, zoned R1. Petitioner seeks a variance for the size limitations and allowable height requirements. Yeah, Brittany.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
If you could just state your address too for
Sure.
Arlene.
It's Brittany Garcia, 247 East Fernwood.
You just-
Okay.
Yeah, just give a statement on what you're asking for.
Okay, recently we moved to our new house on Fernwood. My daughter asked for a tree house, which my dad and my brothers built for her birthday present. We began construction in July and we completed in October. During this time, we were unaware of a need for a permit. I handed out some photos of a tree house we had previously in Morton on Chicago Street that's about the same dimensions. We did not have a permit for that, so we were unaware that we needed one for this structure. We were unaware until Mr. Spangler showed up at our house the day it was complete. It's the size that it is, which I know is above the height and dimensions within, after our conversation, because of the size of the tree. So the tree's massive. I think you've seen the photos with the interior is mostly trunk and then there's a branch. The height is to help, it needs to be that height for the pull-down ladder staircase, and so that we can continue to landscape underneath to maintain our yard. The structure is very sound. It's in cement in the ground. The posts are. There's a railing. There's windows and a door to protect the inside. I think it's fairly aesthetically pleasing. All of our neighbors that I've spoken with have seemed okay with the structure. It's got siding, roof, windows, doors. One door. I think that's about it. Like I said, we were unaware of the situation where we needed a permit until the project was complete, so we're asking for that variance to help keep my daughter's tree house.
Does anybody got some initial questions? Does anybody in the audience wish to comment? Okay, ma'am, I'm sorry, the first, yeah. Oh, okay. Sir, you want to just be sworn in and you can give a statement then?
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Go ahead and state your name and your address.
I'm Raleigh Krug. I live on 241 Fernwood. I'm on the west property to the Garcias. I have a couple photos that I've taken that I wanted to bring. These are just, the one with me is from the outside. This one is from our sunroom. So I just...
I apologize, sir. You're right next door?
On the west side, yes,
Okay.
yes. We share a fence.
Sure.
That fence that I'm against is the one that we share. My concern is my property value. I don't think I'd have moved there had I seen that. And now I don't know what I can do to sell my home if I have to. Almost looks like a single-car garage. I know we're not supposed to talk about aesthetics, but it's big enough to me to be disconcerting. I can't see some of the neighbors' homes on the far end of the block. Anyway, that's my concern.
And how many years have you been at your address?
Since 79, I believe. I believe 79.
Okay.
Well, to make it more aesthetically pleasing, I mean, you're looking at it. If it had a shake style siding on that side, would that make it better, or
I don't know. It's
are you just talking overall size?
It's 20 foot long or close to, I would think. I mean, I have never measured it, but it looks...
It's 20 by 10
Okay, yeah,
20 by 12.
or 20 by 12.
yeah. That's my concern, is that when we look out our windows, we're in a four-season room, and it's all glass, and when we look out on one side, that's what we see. It's pretty large.
Did you watch it go up then? Did you watch?
Yeah. Yeah. I assumed they had a permit. I didn't know.
Yeah, okay. So even if it had something on that side, your overall size you feel is
It's big.
too
Yeah.
big?
Right now, it resembles a single-car garage, which, I mean, you can see, but I don't know that anything could be done that would make it more pleasing for me.
Well, you have probably the most direct view of it, I would imagine.
Yes, I would think so.
Now, when you, did you talk to your neighbors as it was going up?
No, I don't believe I did. Did I?
I mentioned it to you, that we were putting it up, and it was being constructed probably before my father-in-law started working there.
Yeah, he mentioned they were going to put up a treehouse. I didn't think it would look like that.
I mean, did you say anything to them? I mean,
No.
it sounds like you were concerned. I'm surprised you didn't say something right at the beginning.
I assumed they had permits and it was legal and it was none of my business.
So you didn't know it till you got your variance package? Or
Right. I mean,
Roger, what size would that lot, would an accessory building, what's the biggest Garcia's could have?
213 square feet. Is that cumulative or? No,
per
that's
structure?
that's the biggest one, single structure.
Okay, thanks, I appreciate it. Young lady in front, if you want to come up.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You could state your name and address too.
Kristen Musgrove, 47 Hickory Ridge
Can you
Drive.
say it again?
47 Hickory Ridge Drive. My concern with the variance would be, one, impact for, because it's a secondary structure, if it's actually if it's under their home insurance, in case there were something to happen. My parents' property is right next to them. It actually almost overhangs their fence. So I'm curious on, I understand it is a sound structure. It does look like an individual building. So the property value, yes, is a concern, obviously. There's no way to hide it. I don't think you can buy a tree that's high enough.
Right.
Even if we put a high enough tree there, there's utility lines and all sorts of other things that would concern me about putting trees there. Same, if they were on our side, of course, I would be worried about that impacting their property. But also for myself, I have older residents surrounding my property, so I'm concerned that if we allow this variance, that it would impact me in the future. What if somebody comes and builds a structure just like that along my property? So I'm concerned about my own property. If we allow the variance, what would happen in the future? Someone said we set a precedence here. We allowed it now. What's going to happen in the future?
So you're concerned about if somebody would fall out of this onto the other property, or?
Fall out of it?
Yeah,
Something in the structure, say we have a windstorm like we just had. Siding comes off, impacts properties around there, hits their windows. I don't know in their homeowner's insurance what is required or what's covered for the properties nearby. And the same, it doesn't have, like the ladder that's attached to it is not a permanent ladder, so it goes up and down. So, if they were to sell their property, I personally would be concerned about the safety of the structure for the next resident, if there were a next resident that would use it.
You said your parents live by this house, is that correct?
They do. My parents are Carol and Raleigh Crook.
Okay. I
So
apologize.
we saw it going up, and so no, yes, we all kind of assumed. My parents built their sunroom this year as well, so we all assumed it was under regulation, it was approved, and the size requirements also met the code. So knowing that once they received their notification that it hadn't met those requirements, they were asking for a variance. There were personal concerns on my part for my own property, thinking about setting a precedence to allow such a structure. And also for theirs, there's no way to hide it. It's giant. So, you know, I'm just trying to, I would hate to ask them to take it down, but I also don't want to set a precedence to allow this to happen for the future for our community.
Yeah, as far as a precedence, I mean, this is case by case, so it's not, and I think there's going to be some things maybe hopefully changed over the near future to address this treehouse accessory structure dilemma I think we have as far as,
From a legal standpoint, when you consider precedents, one thing you have to consider is equal protection. Equally situated people will be treated equally. To Mike's point, there aren't always two identical cases that come forward. There are a lot of times factual nuances, but we certainly don't treat equally situated people in different fashions. But I think the point to help Mike on the point he's making is there was a lot of nuances factually in each case. So.
and I'm sure as far as insurance, it's going to be like any storm, any tree that goes across the line. I mean, I would assume, you know, whether it's a tree house or whether it's,
Can I speak?
yeah, Brittany, if you want
We
to.
do have insurance on additional structures and
Okay.
on our property, and we also have a personal liability.
Okay.
umbrella, So that would cover anybody falling, which.
Okay. Okay, if that, is that,
That's all I have
okay.
to say.
Thank you for coming up. Does anybody else in the audience wish to speak? Ma'am? Yeah, Arlene will swear again.
You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Okay, state your name and your address.
Holly Oliveria, 233 East Fernwood Street. I'm actually 2 houses down from the Garcias, and all I have to say is that I saw it going up, and I think it looks great. It's not a eyesore. There's nothing wrong with it. Actually, it's well put together, which makes it better for me, because when I go outside and mow the lawn, and I hang out outside with my friends or have a fire or whatever it is, I could actually look at it and know that we are having a neighborhood that's actually family oriented, and there's somewhere for her daughter who could hang out and be safe than going, you know, wherever they may be. And that's all I have to say, is that I actually enjoy it. So.
All right, okay, thank you. I think as far as concern for the neighbors, if there would be, as far as any way I could decide that they're looking at to dress that side up, I don't think I can plant arborvitae because I don't think it'd grow, you know, fast enough to get that hiding value. If a person could put some shake siding on it, I don't know what you guys are thinking, but you know, they do have to look at it. It is a big, you know, that's a lot of side. There's a big wall there.
One reminder, we've had other similar cases where properties come to you where somebody's done something not knowing they had to have a permit or permission beforehand. As a reminder, and this is by state law, the fact that this building is there cannot be considered by you when you vote. That is not a relevant factor. That can't be your hardship because that's a hardship of their own creation. In other words, they put the building up before they had a permit. That can't be the hardship because then you could almost situate any hardship by just constructing without a permit. So
So we're acting like this, they're coming in for a permit for this treehouse.
correct. And that's not something of your own genesis or making. That's state law passed down to you. So
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I get the idea of wanting to have something for your children, and I think that's a nice idea, but based on what council's saying, kind of puts us in a bad position, you know, unfortunately. And I appreciate what the neighbors have said, positive and negative. I see both points. But if you look at it on the basis of a hardship, it puts us in a bad position, you know. I mean, I don't want to have to tell a family that has tried to create a nice environment for their daughter to have friends over and play. And I mean, I think any good parent would like that for their child. But unfortunately, if you look at what council has just stated, it puts us in a very bad position. Then we look like the bad people, tear down the tree house. I know since I've sat on this board, we've had other cases, not with tree houses, but other things that have come forward after the fact. And unfortunately, it's just like, we don't have an option. And if you follow what the law is stating and what the state dictates, it just puts us in a bad position. And, I'm thinking, it's not my job to say, well, can we take it down, put it on the ground, give it like a dollhouse effect for her, and to where it's still functional for her to have something. And I'm sure with the way that it's cut out there with the trees, I'm sure that would probably take longer to take it apart and try to reconstruct it. But here's a question that I have for Roger. Is it possible that, I know they have the other shed in the back, right? What's the limitations? Is there anything that can be done with what's there as far as the materials so this thing is not a total waste to bring it down to ground level that they wouldn't have to have a variance on? Is that a possibility or no?
They would probably know that better than me. Kim is the contractor. I mean, he would know what they could or couldn't do. And if it's another structure on the ground, this is kind of a gray thing for us.
Right.
The fact that this is up in the air, our accessory structure is real clear. You can have 1.6% of your lot area in an accessory, like a storage building. I don't know what we're not normally dealing with tree. In fact, I've never have. I don't know what you call it, the tree house or.
But you'd still need a variance for the size.
Yeah, it's too tall. It's too many square feet if it was considered.
But could you have the two structures on the lot as long as it met the square footage requirement or no?
They both aren't supposed to be a building.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like say the shed and a gazebo.
Right.
Or the shed and a swimming pool.
Sure,
or,
sure.
That type of thing. That's typically what you're going to be having.
I have another question.
Kim, if you want to just get sworn in, yeah, because we can ask you a couple questions.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Kim McKelvey, 862 Sunset Road, Morton. Okay, along the lines of what you guys are talking about, if the old shed was gone and we incorporated the new shed into the treehouse, would that be doable?
I guess if you were applying for a variance is what you'd be asking, if you could build something like, I would like, I don't know what the neighbors think there, but is there any way on that end that faces the house to put a porch on that end?
The one that faces the neighbors?
No, the one that faces the house, just the gable end side. The one that's just flat right now,
Sure. Just going to make it bigger, though.
No, I mean, just take the walls back and make a porch like you did on the other end. Just mirror image the,
Close in the porch and then I'll open it up on the house end.
yeah, or just open it, both porches open and make the thing feel like it's not so.
Which is what we had on our old house. I don't know if you have those pictures.
Yeah.
25, 30
Pretty much
years ago.
two porches off both.
Right. Probably it's the staircase goes up there, and obviously you have to have a certain minimum amount to accommodate that.
Yeah.
But what you're suggesting would probably be done, could be done.
So you're saying reducing basically the siding, or the amount of wall that.
Yeah, even on the side that has the porch on it, open that up so it's just an open.
Mm-hmm.
I think it looks like 3 foot or something you have.
On the other end?
Yeah.
It's, just barely more than the door, so it'll open.
Okay. I'm just trying to find a way make this thing just look a little bit smaller. I think if you have 2 open porches, it would open it up and not be such a massive side.
The size of the tree really determined the shape of the building, because it's a huge tree.
Right.
So there isn't that much floor square footage inside, really. It's mostly tree. Yes, I think we could do what you're talking about. We might even have to do it on an angle or something, but if that would satisfy the needs of the board here, I'd be happy to do it.
Yeah, I don't want to see it come down, but I understand their concerns about what they're looking at, because I think they're the ones that see, pretty much, they're seeing the bulk of it. No, I talked to some neighbors in the other street, and they were all right with it, As far as from what they're looking at, they're not seeing the entire,
I have a question for you in regards to the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Does that tree flex a lot in the wind?
A little bit, but we left like a 4-inch space around everything, so nothing actually bumps against it. So there's a little movement in it.
Okay. And how do we know that it's structurally sound if you have a real bad wind? Would it move 4 inches or not? Or can you tell?
We've been in it when it was very windy, and it didn't come close to that amount, but feel free to inspect it. I tried to build as solid as I could, because I don't want my granddaughter to get hurt.
Right, I understand. Those limbs coming out of there, I'm concerned that it's gonna move, but.
Actually, it's
they're
probably
big.
safer now than before, because we got rid of a bunch of the small limbs that were.
because if we took the walls, the side walls and the back porch facing the back lot line, put another porch on, you could roughly get rid of 6 foot of wall space on that side. So, we're down to, 14 feet as far as looking at it.
I mean, we could make the whole side next to the neighbor a railing if it would be more aesthetically pleasing to them that way, but
I was just trying to, as far as that wall, just
I understand it looks
lessen
big.
up that space. And I don't think it needs another, if it just had, me personally, if it had 2 porches on each end and opened up, is that, if we would open something, you don't want it all?
We landscaped our yard so that we could, enjoy our yard, and now all we see is this big building. We can't even enjoy it.
Yeah,
Can I ask a question?
yes.
So the interior, there's a limit and then there's a height limit. So if we just lowered it, they're still gonna see that giant structure, right? Even if it's not as high and a little bit smaller, it's still gonna be there.
If you would do that, you wouldn't even need a variance. If you technically had the right size, yeah, you could come in and you could build that. And it could be sitting there in the corner and, you gotta be whatever off the lot line there. I don't know what the numbers
The
are.
setbacks are fine.
Yeah. So, yeah, you could have a shed if you didn't have a tree there. It could be sitting right there. It would be understandably a little bit smaller. However you go get that square footage you need.
I mean, even if we took off a wall and made a porch, we would reduce the square footage, right? Because it's the interior. Is that correct? Am I interpreting that building code correctly?
I don't know what we'd consider square footage on a porch. I think that's floor space, so
It would still.
it's under roof, so I think that's considered square footage.
Or we could put the porch on and take the roof off of that much if we had to, but.
I guess my question, I'm just trying to understand this, so I apologize because I'm having a hard time. If this thing, for me to make sense of it, if it was brought down flush to the ground, okay, and would it work? At what size? That's the question I have. So if you
Well, if
did,
it's on the ground, then I think you gotta consider the existing shed
okay,
in terms of, we have 70 square feet of existing storage building, accessory structure. And then if we bring it down to this tree house down to the ground at some size, we're still limited to, I think the number is 213 square feet allowable by the size of their lot. Yeah.
1.6%.
1.6% of that lot was 213 square feet.
What about if you eliminate that other shed, though?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you could take it down to that 213.
is that a possibility?
To eliminate the shed, yes.
I didn't consider them the same. I didn't look at this and the shed as, they're both somewhat buildings, I guess you'd say, but I looked at this more like I would a gazebo, I guess, although it's not on the ground.
I
Kind of
mean-
new ground, really. I mean, it's not, we aren't normally dealing with this.
I know we're not supposed to talk aesthetics, but you drive around most tree houses, you see a couple boards tacked up there, and
Sure.
if they're not safe at all, we tried to make something that we thought looked nice and would be secure.
I mean, if you brought it down to ground level, I mean, realistically, is anything salvageable to try to take that thing apart?
Siding. I guess my question is, they're concerned about their view, but when they look out there, they're looking under it. If we bring it around to the ground, it's right there at eye level, then is that better? To me, it's better to be up in the tree.
One thing just to offer to help maybe shape the focus of what we're considering is, this isn't an adversarial proceeding by nature, so it's not neighbor against neighbor, we decide which neighbor we agree with. The board's, essential task is to make an independent evaluation as to whether the criteria in the code is met by the request. So for the sake of everybody involved, I just wanted to clarify that the board's, it's not about finding something that appeases everybody. It's not about one versus the other. It's instead just kind of a litmus test of whether this case meets these requirements. And again, to help the board, my comments before about the fact that you can't consider the structure being there are correct. That doesn't mean you can't find a different hardship if you see one. They've tendered the size of the tree, for example, creates a hardship that makes it not practical to construct a building the size that our code would allow. You can find a different hardship. My point there isn't to say you have to say no to the case. My point there was just to make sure as you evaluated whether the criteria was met, you placed everything in a proper context. So, sorry to interrupt you, sir. But
No,
I wanted to clarify that.
I'm done unless you have questions.
I had another question for Roger. If this was considered like, you say, a gazebo, what's the square footage of a gazebo, the largest that we could allow?
Well, the only thing that we have relative to square foot is that 1.6% of the lot area.
Oh,
We have maximums of, you can't occupy your whole backyard with something. You can't pave your backyard with a basketball court, so you have nothing left. There's, you can cover 60% of it with accessory structures. Be it any combination of these types of things, you can have two, so they aren't both the same. Mike, I don't know, just a suggestion. Since they're just now hearing your concerns, or the board's concerns for the first time, and trying to decide something, on the fly, would it make sense to say, we can continue this thing, and then maybe they can see what they can come up with for a plan?
And it might also be appropriate to build on Roger's suggestion to the extent any of you desired to, if you had the opportunity yet, and if the property owners would make you welcome to go by and see what's there. Because while you can't consider the fact that the building's there, to your vote, it gives you a perspective that you don't get when you're looking at plans to be able to go drive by it, look at it. But that's a board's discretion.
As far as dialing it up, I if we could eliminate that 6 foot of wall space, put some gray shake vinyl on there and make it like a dial, dial it up a little bit, so it doesn't, I don't know if you guys are willing to that, but I would like to do something like that before I, take
We're
the
certainly
wrecking
willing
ball.
to work with you if it's reasonable to make it look nice or whatever.
Yeah,
I agree with Roger. Maybe we should table this and give some alternatives. Maybe you come up with a plan.
Okay.
Instead of us voting on it and then it's done. It's rather to give you a chance to come up with some plan that we can all agree to.
Okay. One more question. Do you think it's better to revise what's there in the air or try to put something on the ground? Or can you answer that?
as far as the treehouse, I would say my personal feeling is keep it up there and just do something with.
Kim, if you put it on the ground, you're definitely gonna have to get rid of the shed.
Right.
So,
So what we're doing is replacing one shed with another,
Yes.
with a tree in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if, we'll just table this till next month, and
Okay.
in that meantime, we can, figure out which way we want to go with it,
Okay.
and what you guys can come up with, and then we can maybe get everybody on board.
Need a motion to table?
Sounds reasonable to me.
Mr.
Okay, so
Chairman,
thanks, Kim.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we table this to the following month to come up with a better plan to consider.
I'll second.
Fedorich,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Opperly,
yes.
and Barton.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, well, our next month's meeting, then we'll all meet back here. In the meantime, we'll see what we can figure out. That's all right. All right, well, thanks everybody for showing up, appreciate it.
It's a tough one.
Roger?
A couple things. Well, I didn't know we were going to be continuing this, but we will have a meeting. We have another case for January 25th, so we will have a meeting.
Okay.
And then I just wanted to recognize a few people here. Not everybody's here. Mary Spar, for 5 years of serving on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Bill Shook, for being on the Zoning Board of Appeals for 10 years. Grant Barton, Kevin Jones, and Mike Warren, each 15 years. So I appreciate it. I mean, it's a thankless job. I mean, you're not always going to make everybody happy with what you say, what you do. So I really appreciate you doing it. And Mike, the job that you've done as a chairman has been great.
I appreciate
that.
I think we got a good board. I mean, I think everybody's pretty common sense, and we can work through a lot of stuff.
We're not paying you any more money, but just keep
Oh,
doing what
well,
you do.
the board's not that good.
And Merry Christmas then to each
I don't know if we need to get an ordinance on making this treehouse specific when something goes up, because anything that's going to go up in the ground is going to be too tall, unless we just make it, where they've got to come in. I guess.
I'm making notes tonight, and I just think that address.
Locally, there isn't anything.
Future occurrences.
Right, just so when we know it's a treehouse, this is the parameters you're going to fit in.
Sometimes common sense isn't enough.
No,
I think if we can learn from this tonight, and I think we can look at our ordinances, Roger, try to tweak it, and hopefully maybe avoid a reoccurrence.
Yeah, okay, well, thanks, Randy.
Yeah, that would be great.
Because it's tough.
Yeah. I mean, I called around in the area,
Well, you said Washington had one?
Washington had an issue, but before they were going to start addressing, but before they could address it, the tornado addressed it. And I said, well, we don't want that kind of a process, so we'll come up with our own plan here, so.
And I'd like to almost see it stay there, but just make it look a little smaller. Which I think could be done relatively easy and not occur a lot of, they'll just have to do a little work on it, but that's, because there's a lot of wall there.
There is a lot of wall, huge wall.
It's a tiny house.
Yeah. And if you put a different
Looks
siding
like
on
a
there.
garage up there in the air is what it looks like to me.
You put a shake siding on it, make it look,
We haven't done
make it like a little dollhouse, I think would maybe be a little more aesthetically pleasing. Hopefully.
Probably rent it for $600 a month.
Yeah.
Right?
Like a tiny
That's
house.
illegal. Can't do
Kind
that.
of looks like it.
Don't get any ideas, Kevin.
No, I don't have any ideas.
Well, with that, do I hear a motion?
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.